and welcome back to Gav Goes In. Big up yourselves, big up to Lumi Rain each and every time for coming through. Guys, obviously haven't been doing any morning streams as usual. You know, obviously normally do one at 11:30, but obviously I've had a few things come up. So yeah, obviously I haven't been doing one, but obviously back this morning as usual. And big up to yourselves as well for coming on yesterday. Flawless's channel. So obviously my first time on that channel. And big up to Flawless and Sarcasm City TV each and every time as well. But yeah, no, it was good discussion we had on there, man. Obviously, a few of the others on there as well. Manchester United fans. And it's mad because a lot of us are all on the same page in terms of this manager. And as I said, man, it's one of them things where, you know, I think we have to believe that Ruben Amorim's time is coming to an end, and this is what we're going to get into today. And what I would say is, you know, obviously I haven't been live since I'd done the reaction to the Man United Man City game, but that game was nothing short of an absolute embarrassment. Big up to Sham. 3-0 should have been 6, as I said the other day. And for me, as I said, you know, it was one of them things where, you know, there was some concerning things he done, which a lot of people have probably covered already. The most concerning thing, as I said, is playing Ahmad as a left 10 for me, which he's never done before. Because as I said, you know, if you're going to play Ahmad and Mbeumo as a 10, even though I want to see Ahmad in the 10, but not in this system. But if you're going to play Ahmad as a 10 and he's going to be on the left-hand side, you're wasting a player, really, because you're going to have him and Dorgu, you know, drifting towards that side because they're both left-footed, and obviously Dorgu is playing as a wing-back. And then you're going to have Mbeumo, who's naturally a winger anyway, who wants to come out wide. So, as I said the other day, you know, you're going to leave a massive gap in the middle, which meant that Sesko in that game was all on his own when you think about it. So, yeah, there were a couple of concerning things for me in regards to that. But as I said, you know, I think the fact that, you know, Ineos and Sir Jim have come out. And again, if anyone's got the actual quotes, so I think Ineos or Sir Jim have come out and given Amorim an ultimatum in terms of the Champions League qualifications. You know, if they're not within touching distance, then, you know, they will look at pulling the plug. And for me, I don't think it should have got this far, if I'm honest, because you can clearly tell, you know, Ruben Amorim's out of his depth. No matter what anyone wants to say, you know, whether he hasn't got his players, these players are not good enough, etc. The facts are Ruben Amorim is out of his depth quite clearly, because to have 8 wins as a Manchester United manager in 31 games, you know, is a disgrace. You know, to have 4 points so far? From four games? And again, if we're looking at the Burnley game, the Burnley game, that shouldn't have been a penalty, as we've already spoken about before. So again, Amorim's just out of his depth clearly, you know, and I think even, you know, his most staunchest of supporters will actually realise that this Amorim ain't doing anything really at this club. You know, big up to Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team as well. So yeah, as I said, man, he's just massively, you know, out of his depth. You know, this system, as we keep saying, is not getting the best out of these players. There's obviously murmurs from the players now they're not happy. Apparently, Bruno Fernandes now is not happy as well. And when these things start happening, you know the manager's, the manager's more or less on his way. I think the fact that Ineos have come out and said that, or Sir Jim has come out and said, you know, they believe that this team should be looking at Champions League qualification. I think a lot of fans are going to look at it and say, you know, he's out of his mind. You know, he's well off. But I think if you look at this team, the squad as a whole, and you just tweak the formation, you know, do I believe United are capable of getting into the top 4? I think if we look at City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and possibly Newcastle or Tottenham, you would say that's quite difficult to do. But I think between top 8 and top 6 with a different manager and a change of formation, I think that is doable with 1 game a week. So when Ineos are coming out saying that, I think you have to take it seriously and have to think to yourself, you know what, they are actually being quite fair to Ruben Amorim. You know, I think any manager coming in with a change of formation, again, we've already been through it, the 4-2-3-1 with Ahmad in the 10, Mbuemo from the right, Cunha on the left, Xerxes a striker. I think instantly, if you change to that 4 and you've got the likes of Sesko as well, that can come into that as well, I think instantly you're going to see a better performance from the players. It's quite clear that this formation and these players are fed up. Like, it's quite obvious, you know. And no matter what, as I said, his most staunchest of supporters say, the facts are this manager's not doing a good job regardless, you know. And since he's come in, you know, he has been given players. No one can say he hasn't. You know, Mbuemo, Cunha, Sesko. You know, even if you want to put in the likes of Patrick Dorgu as well. You know, even under Ineos' regime, Ugarte is shit, but again, he's another player. There's Joshua Xerxes, Matthias de Ligt as well. You can add into that Lenny Yoro. So there are newer players from what was there previously. You know, the ones that have been there, you know, you would say from previous managers like Solskjaer, you might mention. Masraoui is another one that's been there. You know, the older ones you would say are Dallo, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes. I'm trying to think. Casemiro you could probably mention there as well. So again, these guys that are still there, but there's loads of players that have come in that are fairly new. So when people are saying, you know, he hasn't been given the amount of players that they feel he should be given, he's been given enough, and quite clearly he's not getting the best out of these players. So again, that's why the title, guys, is you know, he's been given an ultimatum, and it's to get Champions League qualification, really, or to be looking like you're in touching distance, or they're gonna make a move. And as I said, I personally believe they've done that knowing he's not really going to get Champions League qualification. I actually do think they've done that on purpose, because they can see that this manager's not really going to improve this team. He's not going nowhere. But it's more of a case, as I said yesterday on Flawless's channel, it's more a case of them saving face. And as I said, I think it's one of them things now where the Chelsea game, do I believe he gets sacked after the Chelsea game? Again, he should have been sacked long time ago, and I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to get sacked after this game, because, you know, we just can't predict what's going to happen. For me, they should sack him straight after this game, regardless, in my opinion. But I think the game, and as I said yesterday, I think between Sunderland and Brentford, if he doesn't manage to win one of those games, and I'm talking if it's a draw or even at worst a loss, I think this is when Ineos are going to act. So again, Chelsea, if he was to somehow beat Chelsea, funny enough, they would actually give him longer, I believe. And this is where this is a complete load of nonsense, because if Amorim just keeps getting the sneaky results, you know, or to keep him alive, Ineos might think, you know, we'll give him an extra game. But I think the Chelsea game, if they get beat, I think he'll have one more game, and that'll be between the Brentford and the Sunderland game. If he has to win, I believe both of them, or at least one of them. And I think, yeah, that's what they're probably going to look at. Guys, keep your questions and comments coming through, and I will go through them after. Big up yourselves. There's 14 of you in there watching. If you're enjoying the content, smash the like button. And guys, don't forget to check out the content from yesterday on Flawless's channel. Obviously, I was on there yesterday. So, yeah, give that a check. And some good discussions there in regards to Ruben Amorim and the team. And obviously, talked about Bruno Fernandes as well. So, if you guys get a chance, go over there and check that on Flawless's channel on Sarcasm City TV. And, yeah, give that a watch. And make sure you smash the like button and sub to Flawless's channel if you haven't been on there already. If you haven't subbed already. So yeah, as I said, guys, I think Sunderland and Brentford is going to be the game where they're actually going to seriously make moves to remove him from the club. I personally think they are talking to other managers as well. I definitely think they are. I think if they're not, then that's even more of a bigger issue because, again, I don't think there's any Man United fan out there that wants Amorim to fail. But Amorim is failing and he's not going to get better. So if Ineos are looking at it thinking that he can turn this around, I've watched football long enough, I've been involved in football long enough to know that he's not turning anything around. His reluctance to change anything is ultimately going to be his downfall. And I think a lot of supporters will be looking at him thinking, at least he's standing on his shield. But I don't think there's nothing wrong with at least identifying where something's not really working and just tweaking something a little bit. Whether it's, taking Bruno out of that midfield and putting an actual midfielder in there, whether it's, just at least changing the formation for a game and seeing how you get on. But I think it's quite obvious, he's not going to do that, which is why he's going to fail. So, yeah, I think it's one of them things now for me where I'm desensitized. As I said yesterday on Flawless's channel, I said I'm desensitized to Ruben Amorim at the moment because I'm just bored of it. He ain't going to get better. These players, I think I personally feel they're looking at him differently, thinking this manager ain't the guy. So it's one of them things now. It's just over to Ineos. We have to just wait and see how quick Ineos pull the plug. Do I believe they beat Chelsea? No. I said yesterday, I think Chelsea win the game 2-0 at Old Trafford. And that's another game that I don't see United scoring in. I think Cunha may be back for that game, which, again, will add to United's attack. But there's no hiding that Cunha is struggling in this team as well. I guarantee you change the system, the formation, you get a better Cunha. But I'm still going to say Chelsea win this game. I'm going to say 2-0 because, again, their draw against Brentford, who United have, funny enough, next game after Chelsea, they would have been frustrated at that, but they'll be looking at trying to overturn that against United on Saturday. So, yeah, as I said, I think that's the game where I think that's the game against Brentford that I can see if Amorim is still here. I expect Ineos to act between those two games. As I said, I don't think it reaches Liverpool personally. I don't think he gets the chance against Liverpool. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't beat Sunderland or Brentford if he's still in charge, because I think those are the kind of games where they'll be looking at, as yeah, we have to change this, because I think the Chelsea game should be the final nail in the coffin. It should have been before, as I keep saying, but I think Brentford or Sunderland is what's going to seal Amorim's fate for me, and I think yeah, it's just boring because this team is just like, I think these players are a lot better than what they're showing. I don't think they're like great, don't get me wrong. I think there is, if I'm looking at United's team, United's players, if we disregard the keepers, I'm looking at Lenny Yoro, Matthias De Ligt, Mazraoui, Patrick Dorgu in a 4. I'm happy with that. And then you've got likes of Aiden Heaven, Luke Shaw, if he's still here, that can back that up as well. Dallo, as poor as he's been, can back Mazraoui up at right back. And for me, I'm happy with that. Then you go into the midfield. Casemiro, Kobe as a 2 in there, I'm happy with. You got Yogati, who I don't rate. Again, you can have him in there as well. And then you've got who else is there? I think to start with those 3 players in a 2, in a 4-2-3-1, I'm happy with. Again, Bruno's still here, but you got Ahmad who can play in the 10, Bruno who can play in the 10, Mason Mount who can play in the 10. And I think if I'm looking at a 4-2-3-1 until January, where you can hopefully revisit Saudi in for Bruno, and then go and get another midfielder in, another couple of midfielders, I would say. Again, Cunha can play in the 10, Xerxes can play in the 10. You got Xerxes as a striker, Sesko as a striker, Mbeumo and Ahmad can both play from the right. Cunha can play from the left. Mason Mount can play from the left. So again, I'm just looking at the change of formation, getting players more comfortable in them positions, and then just try and get through to January, where you can move on a few players and bring in some players, and I think that'll be a start. And let's not forget as well, you got some younger players like Sekou Kone, who could, for me, how poor this midfield is, why he hasn't even got at least 20 minutes to see what he can do is surprising. And as I said, I think I'm just hoping a new manager comes in and at least integrates him into the first team and gives him some minutes, because he can't do no worse than what's in there at the moment, And I think so much of the problem is this formation, because you change this formation instantly. I'm confident you're going to get better performances from these players, And again, some of the players who I don't think are good enough, you might get an extra 5% out of them, which will go a long way. So, as I said, I'm more interested to see the change of manager. But again, Chelsea, I don't expect much against Chelsea. I think 2-0 is being generous. And look at the fact that, they struggled against Burnley at home. Chelsea's a team that will be looking at, at least trying to get into the top 3 with the money they've spent and the players they've got. So it's not going to be an easy game. So it is what it is. Guys, big up yourselves. I'm going to go through your questions. Make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here. And make sure you smash that like button. We've only got 6 likes. And there's 20 of you in here at the moment. So guys, smash that like button. And sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. Big up yourselves. I'm going to go through some of the questions. So, Gav, can we have a bit of appreciation for my club? Big up to Lumi. So, yeah, listen, Arsenal, I didn't see the game, but I think the subs changed the game from what I heard. Martinelli and I think Trossard getting the goals. And I think it's actually funny because you got Martinelli and Trossard, who are, at this moment in time, probably, you would say, 5th and 6th choice attack now. I think behind Saka when he's fit, Madueke, Eze in the wide areas. Yeah, so I'll probably 4th or 5th choice. So the fact that they've come on and got the goals, I think, again, it's showing, obviously, Arsenal's squad, is looking strong. But as I keep saying, Arsenal got tougher tests ahead, and we're going to see what Arsenal are really on. And Bilbao and Nottingham Forest, I didn't expect Arsenal to struggle against them, but they've got Man City on the weekend, on Sunday, and I think City take something away from that game. I generally do. I don't think City get beat. I think City will. I know City weren't great against United, but I think they'll look at that 3-0 result and grow a bit in confidence, and I think they'll take something from Arsenal. I think they can go there and win personally. So it'd be an interesting game, man, for sure. Kenan Yildiz will be a Ballon d'Or contender in 1 to 2 years. You know what? I rate Yildiz highly. I do. If we're looking at the contenders, he could be amongst that. He could be amongst that. But again, I think Lamine Yamal will be the one to beat. I think he's out tonight for the game against Newcastle, which is annoying. But yeah, I think he'll be the one to beat for me in the years to come. But I think Yildiz, I think you have to mention the likes of Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. Arda could be in there as well. Do you know what? It's actually difficult to think of the players that could be amongst it, because I think in terms of a collection of players that are really elite players, I don't think there is too much. Dembele you have to put in there as well. Kvaratskhelia, could do a feature in there. Vitinha. I think the collection of elite players isn't that many. It's crazy. I think Premiership, Cole Palmer, I'd put in there. Yeah, it's not easy. So, but yeah, Yildiz can be amongst that for sure. For sure, he can be amongst that for me. Gav, did you see Højlund and Onana are cooking on loan? Yeah, listen, did you know that I don't care? But no, listen, I think it's no secret that players that leave Manchester United right now, they go on to have better careers or go on to do better. For me, I'm not interested in the Hoyland prop because Hoyland was never good enough. Hoyland, for me, him going back to Italy, playing for the Napoli, who is one of the more dominant teams there. Look, it's a slower league, as we know, and he's got pace in that league that will make a difference. You know what I mean? But let's not get away from the fact that Rasmus Højlund was an absolute disgrace for Manchester United, and the fact that he's gone out on loan. Listen, good riddance to him, man, because I don't want to see that guy come back. I don't want to see that he does decent on loan at United, and United are thinking about bringing him back because he's clearly not good enough. And the tenacity in the Premier League in comparison to Serie A is a lot different. So he might be getting a bit more time. But listen, I don't want to see Rasmus Højlund at Manchester United ever again, because I don't care, man. 72 million for 4 league goals cannot be forgotten. So I don't want to see that guy. On Andre Onana, again, I'm a bit different with Onana because I look at Onana as someone that was a massive scapegoat for me. Because let's face it, in that Manchester derby, Bayinde, who's not good enough either, he let him 3 goals. I think if Lamens was in goal, who's to say that he wouldn't let him 3 goals? So for me, when you're a Man United goalkeeper and you're playing in this system which just invites pressure, as a goalkeeper, you can only do so much. I think the mistakes that Onana did make were unacceptable, but the pressure now is going to be on Lamens, it's going to be on Bayinde, because as soon as they make mistakes, because it is going to happen, whether it's their fault or not, let's see if the same energy is kept for them, for those goalkeepers. Because if you're a Manchester United goalkeeper and you are facing shot after shot, it's bound to take its toll. Again, Donnarumma in that Manchester derby, was a massive difference. Was he facing shot upon shot? He wasn't. But when it really mattered, he was making some key saves. Again, from corners, he's a massive threat because, or should I say, a massive confidence boost for the team because he's a tall keeper and he can just punch the ball out as well. So again, I'm not saying that Onana is in Donnarumma's class because he's not. But I think the setup of the team allows the goalkeeper to be under pressure consistently. And if the team was set up differently, where the goalkeeper was more protected if keeping the midfield and the defense slightly closer together, if he was making mistakes and the defense was more compact, then I'd say, you know what? Yeah, Nana's just a massive problem. But as you can see, Bayinde's conceding 3 goals as well. So at what point are we going to look at this system and think maybe the system is not protecting the goalkeeper? Maybe this system is making the midfield vulnerable, the attack, lacking in threat, and the defense wide open. When are we going to look at that and think maybe that's the problem? And as I said, man, I think Onana and Højlund going on loan. Yeah, listen, they're gonna try and find their feet elsewhere. Do I want both players coming back to the club? Not really, So we have to wait and see what happens in the summer. So, but yeah, big up to Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. Gav, who will win Puskas Award in your opinion? I think that Marmoush goal. Yeah, possibly. I mean, I can't remember a lot of the goals, to be honest with you, but I think the Marmoush one is probably up there. Yeah, I can't think of many other goals, to be fair, but yeah, I think I'd go along with the Marmoush one at the moment. If there's any other goals that you guys remember, put that in the chat so that can refresh my mind. Big up to Ramo. So Ramo says, I'll take Iraola, Glasner, or even Mancini on a free. Yeah, listen, for me, just bring me in a manager. And as I said yesterday on Sarcasm City TV, Flores' channel, as soon as I see a manager that plays the wrong players, they've lost me straight away. Because Ten Hag done it. When Ten Hag came in, I thought, do you know what? This manager is going to play the footballers, because I'm looking at the fact that he's come from Ajax, who played total football, so he's going to be more on the side of playing the technical players. How wrong was I? So The fact that he had the cheek to play a front three of Rasmus Højlund, Garnacho and Rashford and Bruno in the 10, if anyone didn't see what a massive problem that was, you're now seeing that because you've now got three of those players, the manager out, and you've got the supposed player that he played in the number 10 struggling. So that was a cause for concern for me with Ten Hag. And the same with Amorim. When Amorim came in, it was more of a case where, do you know what, get Ten Hag out is a disgrace. As I said yesterday, Amorim's coming to this club and it's been even worse. And for me, I think the fact that he's hell-bent on playing Bruno Fernandes, the fact that he gave Højlund 20-plus games, the fact that he loves Mason Mount and is shoehorning Mason Mount into this team now, along with Bruno, the fact that he's reluctant to drop Dalot, you know, again, the fact that he started playing Ugarte as well, these are all the things now that I look at and think, yeah, this manager is not the manager for Manchester United. So again, Iraola, Glasner or Mancini, just give me a manager that wants to play with the best players, the most technical players, and wants to play a cohesive brand of football that the majority of United fans that love football, love watching their teams entertain. Give us something to look forward to. Again, my main managerial appointment has always been Zidane, but Zidane's always been more of a fantasy in a sense of him coming from Real Madrid and having the team that he had, you know, and winning those Champions Leagues. It was more of a high optimism bringing in Zidane to the club. Again, the way the team's set up is not really set up for Zidane. But if Zidane was to come to United, you know, because there was talk about him going to, who was it? It was a team that he meant, was it Fenerbahce or something like that, I heard? Which obviously that's not happening because they got a new manager now. But if Man United could get Zidane somehow, which again might be a bit unrealistic, then he's always been my number one. But, you know, if we're looking at Premier League proven, Iraola, I mean, Glasner does play a free. However, I do think Glasner's only playing a free because he's adapting to the team that he has, in my opinion. And again, that's a sign of a good manager. He's looked at the players he has and thinks they'd be more suited to playing a free. So I think if Glasner was to come to United, and again, I think Glasner's only got 1 year left on his contract. If he was to come to United, I don't believe he sticks to this three at the back. I think he plays the four. And again, Iraola's a top manager. And look at Bournemouth. Bournemouth, I know that the season's only just started, but look at Bournemouth. Bournemouth are in the top four. Who would have thought that, you know, at the start of the season? So he's a top manager. So he's someone that I think he's got a 10 million release clause in his contract as well. So he's someone that, for me, getting him out of Bournemouth won't be that difficult for me. And he's someone that should be high on the list. You know, Mancini's on a free. Again, it's not too much to ask, man. Just go and get a manager that wants to play the best players and play on the front foot. Simple. Gav, who will land Malik Fofana? Good question. I like Malik Fofana. I mean, I'd have Man United, you know, in a 4-2-3-1 on that left-hand side, competing with Cunha. Again, Fofana's what, 20? Who will land him? I'm not too sure. I mean, Chelsea were looking at him. We know that United were as well. Yeah, I mean, who knows, man? It's not easy to say, but I hope when January comes about, you know, if we're not going to bring back Jadon Sancho next season, then I hope that Fofana is someone that is being looked at because he does have qualities for me, definitely. But it's hard to say who he's going to end up, you know, where he's going to end up. But he's definitely going to have suitors because he is someone that is young and that has a lot of quality. So, yeah. Who knows? Big up to Mark Harris says, it would be good if Amorim's CV, if he just resigns, there's always another mug team who will employ the bum. Yeah, listen. I mean, there was talk about Amorim going to Benfica from what I see yesterday, but obviously Benfica are in talks with Jose Mourinho. So that's not happening. Where does Amorim go next? I couldn't tell you, man. I mean, I think for what Amorim's done so far in this league, would there be another Premiership team that would look at employing him, knowing that he's a manager that that is quite stubborn. I don't really know where he ends up. You know, could he go back to Portugal and take over Sporting Lisbon? You know, that could be something to think about. But I think in terms of his career in the Premiership, I just don't know if there's many teams that will take him now. You know, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. But one thing's for certain, the plug has to be pulled on Ruben Amorim, because he's embarrassing this club with his comments. You know, as I keep saying, the fact that this manager is just been lying to us, saying to us that, you know, Cobby's competing with Bruno, then he brings on Bruno with Cobby against Grimsby. We know full well if that was Man City, as you can see, he's never going to bring on Cobby with Bruno in the midfield too. So literally, he looked at Grimsby as, you know, it's Grimsby taking the piss. But really and truly, he shot himself in the foot, because when you're telling us that Cobby is competing with Bruno, but then you bring Bruno on with Cobby in the midfield too, in the same system, like, you're just lying to us now, you know. And then now it's all of a sudden Cobby's now competing with Ugarte, Casemiro, and Bruno for a midfield place, you know. And you can clearly tell that Cobby Mainoo is disillusioned with his position at the club. You know, you can clearly tell that Cobby has lost confidence as well. You know, this was a guy that came into the first team when he first made his debut. You know, we were looking at Cobby as being one of the best midfielders in England. This is a guy that started a European Championship semi-final. You know, he was being looked at as being one of England's next big things in midfield. Now, and again, Cobby's only what, 19, 20? Now we look at Cobby Mainoo as just someone that's come through the youth that is trying to get a place in the squad, and he was never that. You know what I mean? So again, it's one of them things with Cobby Mainoo, man. It's through no fault of his own, you know, because I can guarantee this for free. If you change this formation, you know, and play him as a 2 in midfield, but in a 4-2-3-1, or if you play a 4-3-3, where he's got someone that's a bit more deep lying, or more of a DM, and he plays as a box-to-box or an advanced playmaker, you know, you're going to get a better Cobby Mainoo. You get a more confident Cobby Mainoo as well. So, again, these are the things that, you know, fans need to really be looking at. You know, is Ruben Amorim doing a disservice to a lot of the players that are the better players? For me, he is. Amad Diallo, even Mbeumo. Even Mbeumo's has been decent, but he's not playing in his favourite position. You know, Cunha's having to play in the 9 if he plays Mount. When he's not a 9, he's more of a 10. As bad as Bruno Fernandes is, you know, he can't play in this system as an 8 or a 10. If we're looking at a 4-3-3, he's more adept to playing as an 8 in a box-to-box midfield. A 4-2-3-1, he can play as a 10. But, you know, this manager chose to keep Bruno Fernandes, which was the biggest problem, because Bruno Fernandes, for me, should have definitely been let go. But the fact that Ruben Amorim was part of the reason why he stayed, you know, it's just pathetic, really, you know. So yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, I'm just not sure where he goes, because I think, as I said, you know, if he was to stay in the Premier League, I actually don't think there's any team in the Premier League that actually thinks about hiring him. You know, I think if we're looking at West Ham are on the verge of probably getting rid of Graham Potter, realistically, I would say. You know, West Ham wouldn't hire him because West Ham actually turned him down in the first instance. So, yeah, it's just one of them things, really. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Kone is class. He's a very good player. And the fact that this midfield is performing the way it is, and he's getting no minutes, yeah, it's pathetic, man. But I just hope a new manager comes in and looks at him and thinks, you know, he's someone that can be utilised. Definitely. Big up to Bird as well. So Mark says, don't get me wrong, all the first team are probably down tools, not good. I mean, when people say players have down tools, yeah, I don't believe there's players that step onto the pitch and just automatically think we're not playing for this manager. I don't actually think that. But what I will say is that they're probably disillusioned, thinking, you know, this manager's not setting him up and not setting him up to get the best out of them. So I think that's something that they might be looking at. But I think definitely, you know, there are probably some players there that might not be given 100%. You know, and a lot of fans might be saying, but you know, you should be playing for the badge, etc. When you're consistently getting beat and you're not happy in your role, there's only so much you can do, regardless if you want to play for the badge or not. You know, so when people say they should be playing for the badge, I think that's just fantasy, you know, because as I said, a lot of these players don't step onto the pitch and say that they're not going to play to their absolute maximum. They're never going to say that, you know. But if you're being set up to fail, you know, there's only so much, you know, that you're kind of what's the word? There's only so much you can more or less take as a player before you just start, you know, going through the motions, I would say. And again, Ruben Amorim as a coach for me doesn't instill any confidence into these players. He doesn't. You know, they turn up every week, you know, not knowing what's going to happen, whether they're going to get beat, you know, whether they might win a game. So for the confidence of the players, it's going to be low, definitely. But yeah, the whole down in tools, I'm not going to say it's down in tools, you know, because I think it's a bit too much to say these players are down in tools, but these players quite clearly are disillusioned with what's going on, you know, and yeah, confidence is probably low as a whole under this manager. So yeah, that's what I would say on that, really. Big up to Barbara Joseph as well for coming on. Guys, come on, smash the like button, sub to the channel as well. Big up to Mike Willie 45 says, another thing about Amorim that's a red flag is he doesn't want to give our academy a chance. Manu is perfect for CM and Kone should have got minutes in pre-season to see his skills. 100%. I agree with that, Mike Willie. Now, again, we mentioned Sekou Kone already. Maybe he probably looks at Kone thinking the team are not in the best shape, so he doesn't want to probably bring a younger player into the group and kill their confidence. I'm not saying that's true, but he could be looking at it like that, which I don't really agree with, because, you know, if you bring a Kone in, like giving Kone 20 minutes, like you might find out in 20 minutes that this guy has something to offer. And as a whole, he might provide a boost to the team. You just don't know. But his reluctance to even bring Kone in, even the fact that Kone's not even gone out on loan, is weird. You know, when you're light on midfielders. As I said many times, you know, Kobbie Mainoo for me in this system is not a central midfielder because it just requires different responsibilities there. So the answer is to sack the manager, change the system if you want to get better out of Kobbie Mainoo. That's more or less the answer. If you want to get a better Kobbie Mainoo, then the manager has to go. It's as simple as that. But in terms of giving the academy a chance, I've never been of the opinion to just give players from the academy games regardless, because United want to follow this whole philosophy of having an academy player on the bench, etc. For me personally, I think if you're good enough, you play. You know, from what I've seen of Sekou Kone, he can offer something to this first team. He can, but the man just reluctant to even give him his chance. So as I said, yeah, it's difficult to see the academy players coming through. You know, the only one at the moment is Kobbie Mainoo, and he can't even get game time. And again, Kobbie wanted to move on because he just wasn't being given game time at Amorim. So again, until Amorim's gone, Kobbie's not going to figure much. People can kind of pull the wool over other fans' eyes all they want. The facts are, he doesn't rate Kobbie Mainoo. It's not about Kobbie Mainoo trying hard in training or proving himself in games. The manager quite clearly doesn't rate Kobbie Mainoo as highly as what a lot of other fans do. It's quite obvious, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of fans out there saying that Kobbie's got to prove his worth. It's nothing to do with that. he doesn't rate Kobbie Mainoo. It's as simple as that. Because Kobbie hasn't been given half the chances that a lot of other players have been. So, and it directly is involving Bruno Fernandes. So yeah, I don't see the academy being given a chance under this manager. So until he's gone, Sekou Kone, Kobbie Mainoo are not going to be figuring as much as what people want them to. Just, it's as simple as that. Big up to Ryan Campbell, says Saka. Yeah, look, and Saka's injured, man. What are you bringing up Saka for? So Mark says, dude, Onana should be investigated for match fixing. Come on. I think that's pushing it, to be honest with you, man. I think, as I said on Andre Onana, you know, I'm not Onana's biggest fan, you know, but what I would say is that he was a massive scapegoat, just like Fred was, you know. To think that Man United have Manuel Ugarte in their midfield, and you know he's got away with criticism a lot of time, but yet Fred was easy to criticize. You know, we know why that is. As I said, Onana hasn't been great, but the pressure now is on the likes of Sene Lemens and Bayinde, because it's not going to be easy with the way this manager sets up. So until unless this manager goes, Lemens and Bayinde, whoever's in goal, they're going to be under pressure to perform. So it's as simple as that. I think sacking Amorim is the best option right now. It's not ideal, but the boat will sink hard if we continue to keep him, and this lack of adaptability, man management is going to get him sacked. So yeah, listen, again, Mike, another great comment. But the thing is with Amorim, you know, his reluctance to change anything, which again is his prerogative, really. The fact that he doesn't sub off Bruno Fernandes, he's in love with Dalot, in love with Mason Mount. You know, I said from the get-go, it's gonna be his downfall. And you're duly seeing that now, because I said this at the start of the stream. If you're a manager and you can't identify who your best players are, you've lost already. And he can't even identify his best players. His best players don't really play all together. And, you know, he's doing exactly what Ten Hag has done, playing more of the runners. That's not going to get you anywhere, unfortunately. You know, so we can all rant and rave, you know, and get pissed off at the fact that he's not playing his technical players. I've gone past that. The facts are he's going to get himself sacked because he's doing too many things wrong. Not to mention the fact that he's had 8 wins as a Manchester United manager in 31 games, which is an absolute joke. You know, his win ratio was, what, 23.5%? You know, I'm not sure what it is now. I know it went up against Burnley and then went probably down against Man City. So again, the fact that he's got all these negative records, the writing is on the wall. And this is why, but for me, as I said in the title, in the description, you know, he's got an ultimatum. You know, and is he going to last? He's not going to last. I can say hand on heart, he's not lasting. Even if he manages to somehow sneak a positive result against either Chelsea, Brentford, or Sunderland, it's not going to take too long before he reverts back to the same old. So even if he sneaks a result and it buys him some time, the writing's on the wall, because you got Liverpool coming up. Do I think they beat Liverpool? Liverpool haven't been great, but I don't see United beating Liverpool if he's still here. Tottenham, the same. I don't see that. You know, Forest away, Brighton at home. We can't be confident of him doing that. And as I said, they're looking at United, you know, at least being in touching distance of the Champions League qualifications. He's not going to do that. So this is why the writing's on the wall for Ruben Amorim. And for me, it's a matter of time. You know, I think, as I said, Chelsea game, they get beat. And then I think the Sunderland and Brentford game, either one of them games, I think he's gone if he doesn't get a win. I think that'll be enough, you know. Big up to Buckwheat. says, so when Amorim gets sacked, who will be your choice? I think I've answered that already. I mean, if we're looking at Premier League, yeah, I think everything points towards Andoni Iraola for me. People are saying Glasner. I think I'm a bit skeptical at the moment with Glasner because of the three at the back. But I do believe Glasner plays a 4 when he comes. I think Glasner's only playing a 3 because he's adapting to what he has at Palace. But I think he does play a 4 if he does come to United. Someone else mentioned Mancini on a 3 as well. Again, the whole manager thing. Again, we don't know what Ineos have up their sleeve. But all I would say to that is just get me a manager that wants to play the best players and play good football. You know, that's where I'm at with Man United. That's where I'm at the moment, you know. Yeah, I don't want Conte, man. Nah, and the Conte not for me. Definitely not for me. Not Conte, man. You know, I'm not saying Conte is a bad manager, but I'm sick and tired of... The way I look at Conte is how I look at Mourinho. These managers are more defensive for me. 3 at the back. I'm tired of the 3 at the back because the 3 at the back doesn't get your best players in the team all at one time. So yeah, I'm not really here for the Conte, really. Iraola and Glasner, yeah, they're 2 names I'll be looking at, definitely. And a few others as well. Big up to Souls. Big up to Rado Kamara as well. Yeah, listen, 25% win rate is an absolute joke. Like, that's relegation, that, you know. Everyone knows that's relegation. I've never seen a Manchester United manager with that low win percentage, you know, and there's still fans out there that are still backing this. Yeah, there's still managers out there, there's still fans out there that are still backing Ruben Amorim. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. It's absolutely laughable. But again, it's going to get worse. I do believe it gets worse the longer he's here. So we have to just ride it out while we can. And as I said, I'm more desensitized, as I keep saying, because I truly thought he was going to leave in an international break. The fact that he's still here, you know, is just tiring, really. And what did we expect? I said City will beat United. I said 2-1. You know, to think it was 3-0 and it should have been 6. I mean, why are we surprised? You know, why are Ineos thinking this manager's going to do anything? So that's the problem. Zidane doesn't promote youth, checkbook manager, avoid. I mean, what I would say on that, Mark, you're half right and you're not. What reason I'm saying that is because you have to look at what team he was at. When you're at Real Madrid and you've got the players at his disposal, it's very hard to bring in youth players because you've got world-class players there already. So any youth player coming in will have to be, you know, better than a Casemiro, better than a Cruz, better than a Modric in midfield. These are 3 of the best players, midfielders in the world at the time. Even if you're a defender, Ramos and Varane, you're not going to get ahead of that. Danny Carvajal at right back, Marcelo at left back. In attack, Ronaldo, Benzema, Bale. So again, when you're saying Zidane doesn't promote youth, you can't really promote youth in a team stacked with that kind of quality, because you're looking at the best players in the world in the majority of every position. So I don't really agree with that, really. He's not someone that promotes youth. I mean, it's hard to say that being at Real Madrid. If he was to come to Manchester United, you know, again, he might look at the youth. He might look at the youth thinking to himself, you know, there's gaps in the team that he could actually do with a youth player coming in. But to say that he doesn't promote youth, only ever being at Real Madrid, doesn't really make sense, because he's only been at Real Madrid with the best players. So you're never really going to promote a youth player, really, because that means you're putting on high earners on the bench, or that player that's coming from the youth has to be out of this world. Like if you've got a Lamine Yamal, for instance, and Yamal is just undoubted, then I hear it. But Real Madrid haven't got a youth player I mean, I got Nico Paz, who's on loan at Como at the moment, who's doing very well. But Real Madrid don't have a youth player coming from their system that just instantly goes into their first team when Zidane was there. So again, it's not easy to go and do that, you know. So yeah, I think it'll be different if he comes to United. Hopefully, there's a possibility of that. Amorim lost me when he said Kobe and Bruno are competing, but every time Bruno stinks, he still stays on the pitch over Kobe. On top, he plays Ugarte over Kobe, which is baffling. Yeah, listen, I agree. And again, he's never going to sub Bruno because Bruno is one of his lieutenants, you know, on the pitch. You know, whatever Amorim says, it's more or less Bruno, you know what I mean? And the fact that he's Portuguese as well, you know, I've gone past the thing of Amorim keep playing Bruno because he's been doing that ever since he come to the club, so he's not going to change that. The fact that he was kept at the club when a bid came in from Saudi was the massive red flag. And I blame Ineos for that because Ineos should have taken that decision out of Bruno and out of Amorim's hand and got rid of him. So, again, the fact that he has stayed, you know, he's going to keep playing him. But I mentioned this earlier. He told us that he's competing with Bruno, you know, which was a lie. He just doesn't want to play Kobe Mino. And again, when you're saying you're playing Ugarte over Kobe Mino, which is baffling, it is. But again, this system doesn't get the best out of Kobe Mino. And again, Ugarte is not good enough. So until this system's changed, we're not going to see a progressive Kobe Mino. It's not going to happen. So Mark says, get Ancelotti or Klopp, play the money. Again, I would love Ancelotti at this club. Again, he's at Brazil, so I don't see that happening. But again, Ancelotti is someone, you know, he's someone I would love at the club. And again, the reason why I want Zidane and even at Ancelotti is because of the kind of respect that these two command. Zidane as a man, Zidane as a player, and obviously what he done at Real Madrid. You know, a lot of management is about respect. It's about you know, the relationships you build within the squad. And I think these two command both of them, both of those aspects, you know, which is why I want Zidane, because instantly you will get players that will play for Zidane, having respected him as a player and what he's done, obviously, at Real Madrid, which, again, people might say things were set up for him, but I think he commands respect, definitely. And Ruben Amorim doesn't really command respect because what he's done in Portugal doesn't really stand up to what he's to what he can do in the Premier League. So so as I said, yeah, that's why I desperately want an Ancelotti or a Zidane. Klopp's never going to come to Man United because obviously he was at Liverpool, so that's never going to happen. And again, would I want Klopp at United? Not really. You know, although Klopp was a great manager for Liverpool, I just want a manager that wants to play the best players and play some good football. For too long, we've been starved of good football. And Klopp's teams don't play the greatest of football, you know, in my opinion. So, as I said, I don't want a Klopp, and it's never going to happen anyway. But Ancelotti, getting him out of Brazil now is unlikely. Zidane hasn't got a club. So, yeah, if you can bring me Zidane, listen, I'm a happy guy, man. I'll tell you that for free. So Spinning the Wheel says, I think Jose will rejoin United or another Prem club. That's not true. He's going to Benfica. So, yeah, there's an agreement for him to become Benfica boss. So he's going there. Big up to Abdallah. Yeah, big up for coming on, man. So Mike Willie says, do you think we should give Amorim 3 matches? I think Chelsea should be the last straw. Mike, listen, I would have sacked Ruben Amorim when he finished 15th and lost the Europa League final. You know what I mean? So that's where the standards should have been, you know. But the fact that he's still here, people were excited about pre-season. I watched all the pre-season games. I saw nothing different. I just saw better players coming in, you know, and it looked like that those better players, the likes of Cunha, the likes of Mbeumo, you know, they could offer something different when the game's tight. But I saw nothing. People were excited about the Arsenal game as well, which, again, I didn't see this performance that a lot of fans were looking at. I just saw that Arsenal weren't great, but Arsenal still won the game, which is should be looked at, because if United are playing well and in people's eyes and not winning the game, it's like it's a bit weird, you know what I mean? So as I said, and then obviously you see the start to the season, that they've had. So for me, yeah, he should have been sacked time ago last season. Me personally, I'll sack him regardless of what happens in the Chelsea game. But I think they won't sack him after the Chelsea game. I think they're gonna sack him depending on what he does against Brentford or Sunderland. Because I think either one of them games, if he doesn't win, I think that's when they'll pull the plug. And obviously, when Jim's coming out saying, they should be in touching distance of Champions League. He's more or less saying he doesn't believe Amorim can do that. I think he knows deep down Amorim can't do that. But he's more or less letting everyone know that he's on the verge of getting sacked. It's obvious, So I'm gonna say he's got between Sunderland and Brentford game, So Soul says Amorim's energy is negative. Players' body language tells. Yeah, listen, when you've got a manager, yeah, that is always looking despondent, he's on his knees all the time. Like, you're not gonna produce confidence to your team. That's a fact. That's a fact. Some people think there's not a problem with how Ruben Amorim is displaying his body language, but I'll tell you this for free: if I'm playing and my manager is on his knees and just looks fed up, you're gonna be like, well, if he's fed up, then why should I bother? Like that's just natural, So for me, the fact that he looks like he's never really happy, for me, says a lot. And it says that he's not really trusting these players. And again, he's come out, throwing these players under the bus as well, trying to save his own skin. Again, players will be looking at that thinking, he doesn't trust us, whatever. So yeah, as I said, man, as a player, you're probably looking at Amorim thinking, yeah, he doesn't really trust what we're doing. We don't really trust this system either. So yeah, they'll be going through the motions. So when I can't remember who it was, I think someone mentioned, I think it might have been Mark mentioned down in tools. I wouldn't go as far as them saying they're down in tools, but I think they're losing confidence in this manager, and rightfully so, for so many different reasons, Yeah, listen, football's been in decline for a while now. It has. When we're looking at the Ballon d'Or list, that has come out. I can't remember the list of players, but for me, it's one of them things where back in the day, man, there were so many players that you could say will be on the Ballon d'Or list. And if any one of them players won it, you'd be thinking to yourself, yeah, I can see that. Now, it's hard to look at this Ballon d'Or list because when I'm seeing the likes of Scott McTominay on the Ballon d'Or list, that's how you know that's the day football died. Football died the day when Scott McTominay was on the list of the Ballon d'Ors, because the Ballon d'Or is meant to be the best player in the world, voting for the best player in the world. And again, McTominay's never going to win the Ballon d'Or, but the fact that he's on the list is concerning. It's concerning. I couldn't give a damn what season he had at Napoli. There's no way he should be on the list of the best player, because the best player in the world should be the best player, which generally means the most technical player, the player that decides games. Numbers do come into it as well as things won. I mean, yeah, Napoli won a Serie A, but is that enough for me to see Scott McTominay as a Ballon d'Or contender? Nah, not for me, man. No way. No way. Yeah, big up Lumi, man. No worries. No worries. Listen, you're on it all the time, so if you got work, you got work. Big up yourself each and every time. Big up to Daniela Iacona as well. Big up to Nick Fadley. Yeah, big up Nick, man. Nick, one of the originals. Big up Nick for coming on, man. Guys, come on, smash that like button. We got 15 of you in there, 16 likes. Let's at least hit 20 as a minimum. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you do as well. Sahal CJ says, let me tell you something. Don't know what he's going to say, but... Big up to Winston Churchill, says, keep Amorim. Hopefully he gets United relegated. I mean, to be honest with you, like, United for me will never get relegated. But I think he could be the nearest manager to actually realising that, because I honestly don't know where his next win's coming from. Because if, again, Burnley just got promoted, yeah, into the Premier League, and United struggled against Burnley. And it took a penalty, you know, which wasn't one, to beat them. So if we're seeing things like that, this is where we have to really be thinking, is relegation a possibility under this manager? I'm not going to say United get relegated, because I've never seen them get relegated in my lifetime. But this manager, in his stubbornness and the way that he sees football, could be as close as that for me, you know? So Lumi says, are you missing Champions League on a personal level, Gav? Do you know what? I'm not. I mean, I want to try and catch it tonight, if I'm honest. I mean, yesterday was a mad day for me. I was at work yesterday, and obviously by the time I got back, you know, obviously I had the stream with Flawless on Sarcasm City TV as well yesterday, and then I went to the gym. So, yeah, it was difficult for me to try and watch the football. I managed to get back and watch the Real Madrid game, the second half, bit of the second half, where I think that penalty was harsh that was given to Real Madrid, Mbappe getting 2 penalties. So, yeah, but tonight I'm going to try and hopefully get a couple of games in. I mean, Barca, my second team, are playing Newcastle, but Yamal's not playing, you know, which is frustrating, but Pedri is. So I might try and get that game. I think Bayern are playing Chelsea tonight as well. City are playing Napoli. City are playing Napoli, I think, as well. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get some. I'm gonna try and try and watch one of the games. Yeah, but yeah, yesterday was a mad one for me. Problem is, United think they deserve and expect to win games. There has been their team now. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say that. I think Man United, as I said right now, I think a lot of fans do realise where United currently are, you know. But I think to keep standards high, you know, you have to go into every game thinking, well, for me personally, even if you're not going to win the game, you have to go into a game thinking you're going to, knowing or thinking you're going to win the game. Too many times with Ruben Amorim, in the way he sets up negatively. I mean, to go in against, I know you've got your philosophy that you want to stick by, yeah? But to go into Grimsby and play 5 at the back, he should have been sacked for that alone. You don't go to League 2 Grimsby and set up at 5 at the back, regardless of your philosophy and how you want to play. You know, so that was a red flag for me there, you know. But again, I think Man United fans are clearly understand where they are as a club right now. And that's not in a good place, you know. As I keep mentioning, from what I'm seeing of Ineos at the moment, they are doing a good job in terms of recruitment, in terms of putting things in place finally. But this manager is going to be the red flag on their CV at the moment. So until this manager goes, myself, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not going to be believing in this team, because United can get beat by anyone, you know. They can get beat by anyone under this manager, because he's a serious problem for this club. I've said this before, him and Bruno Fernandes as a duo are arguably the 2 of the biggest problems at this club right now. On the pitch, them 2 are the biggest problems, because you've got the manager, the captain, you know, who's shoehorned into the team, and the manager's reluctance to change anything. So those 2 as a collective are the biggest problems in terms of on the pitch at Manchester United. And until both of those people are removed, United are going to keep struggling. Those 2 coincide with how poor this team has been. Big up to Xavier Burley. He is a stubborn man. I agree. Big up to Black Mojo King as well. And big up to NB. I agree with this, yeah? Some United fans have a fetish for sticking with the manager just because of Fergie and Busby. And this is why the team will continue to fail. Because people have to realise, yeah, that this whole Sir Alex Ferguson, that era's done now. You're not going to get a manager that is going to stay at a club for 10 years. It's never going to happen. Pep Guardiola, as we know, is one of the greatest managers ever. Yeah, if not the greatest. You know, him, Klopp, they earned the right to be at those clubs because they were being successful. You know, so if people think that the way forward is to keep a manager at their club for 5, 6, 7 years, football's changed massively now. It's not going to happen. And again, I wouldn't even mind if Amorim was getting good results, the team are playing well. I wouldn't even though I don't rate this system, yeah, if he was playing, if a team are getting results and playing well, I would find it very hard to come on there and start telling you Amorim has to go. Because he can easily come back and say, you know, look at the results, you know, look at the way the team's performing. Even though I hate this system. But the fact that this system's shit, the fact that his player profiling is shit, the fact that he's got 8 wins in 31 games is poor. The fact that United are in, 14th position right now. The fact that they finished 15th last season and lost a Europa League final to Tottenham. These things can't be forgotten about. You know, so I think, again, in the league, I believe there's a stat that people will be aware of as well. I think 6 of his wins have come against teams that are no longer in the league, from what I've heard. The fact that I think that Man United might have 2 open play goals at Old Trafford in the league under him. I could be wrong in the Premier League. I could be wrong. But these are some of the stats that we're hearing. So, yeah, this whole keeping him at the club because Fergie had all this time. Fergie was successful, by the way. You know, and Matt Busby was as well. So Matt Busby was as well. Amorim's not being successful. So why do we have to keep Ruben Amorim, you know, longer? Why do we have to go and do that? Shouldn't happen. You know, it shouldn't happen. But hey, this is the problem, man. With a lot of fans, they just stuck in the past, and yeah, when it's too late, that's when these guys are gonna realize. Because Man United have had 4 games, yeah. They need to sack him as soon as possible because this season is still salvageable under a different coach, different manager. If the longer they keep Amorim, the more this team is going backwards. So they have to act as soon as possible. Because, as I said, he's taking his team backwards. He's taking it backwards even more than Ten Hag has. And Ten Hag was an absolute disgrace in the end. So, this is it. So Scott Bramwell says, if we get a new manager, the same shit will happen. It's the players what are wrong for the system. The players are to blame. Scott, I think personally, you've been on other channels and you're being brainwashed by that nonsense. You see that nonsense about if we get a new manager, the same shit will happen. That's a lie, and I'll tell you why that's a lie. Yeah, the new players that wasn't here under Ten Hag are Sesko, Cunha, and Mbeumo. You know, not to mention he didn't really play. Ten Hag didn't play Xerxes enough, so I look at him as a newer player. Again, what I would say is when you're saying the same shit will happen, so you think because a team didn't really perform well in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 under a previous manager, we can't go back to that and try it. I've never heard such nonsense in my life. At the end of the day, I look at the players of Lenny Yoro, Matthias de Ligt, Mazraoui, Patrick Dorgu, Kobe Mainu, even Casemiro, Ahmad, Mbeumo, Cunha, Xerxes, Sesko. You know, I look at those players to start with. You know, those players will be better in a different system. So this whole players under a new manager won't perform because they've done it before is a load of nonsense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So your answer is to just keep trying the same thing over and over again because they weren't successful in your eyes under a different manager, even though we've got newer players. Yeah, that's nonsense. Like, and I can tell you're getting that from other channels. You know, the facts are this system right now, he is failing. He's not getting the best out of any players. Yeah. So the answer to this is you don't just keep going through the same old thing with these same players in this same system. You know, it's very obvious that Amad Diallo's a 10 playing as a wing back. Brian Mbeumo is a winger playing as a 10. Kobe Manu is a number 8 in a different system. You know, can play as a 10. Cunha is a 10, but is being made to play as a 9. Patrick Dorgu, I said this before. Patrick Dorgu, for me, it can be like an Alphonso Davies at left back in terms of his physicality. Even Lenny Yoro. Lenny Yoro is a centre back having to play right side of a 3. You know, so all these things, I guarantee you change the system and a different manager, you'll get better performances from these players. So, yeah, I'm not with the notion that we can't change the manager because the same shit will happen. I definitely know you're getting that from elsewhere. That's not your own opinion. And that's an opinion that I don't support. Because there's no way I'm going to say keep the manager because the same shit will happen with these players. That's nonsense. So Scott says Kobe's better than Bruno in the midfield. Well, yeah, he is. He is. But again, this system's a killer. So we just need to see a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 for me, man. Definitely. What do you think of Xavi? Xavi's another one. Another one. I forgot about Xavi. I'll take Xavi. You know, at least we know. Because I look at the kind of player Xavi was. Xavi's going to like technicians. As I said, if you're a manager that wants to play with technical players, you've got my vote straight away. Because I've said this for years now, yeah? Any manager that comes in and wants to play with athletes or runners, you've lost me straight away. You've lost me straight away. So the fact that Xavi was a ball-playing midfielder, I will trust Xavi to come in and play with the ball players. Whether he plucks out players from the youth that he wants to get into his system, I'm here for it. So, yeah, Xavi's another one that I look at, man, as someone that I can definitely see making a difference to this team. Keenan Yildiz would be like Ribery. Do you know what? That's not a bad shout, Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. Ribery was a top player, and yeah, Yildiz, to be fair, you know, right-footed, inverted. I can see what you're saying. I think he's got a long way to go to reach the level of Frank Ribery, though, because Ribery was a top player. But yeah, he's a very good player, Keenan Yildiz. So, what United players do you consider natural leaders and mentality monsters? Matthias de Ligt is definitely one. For me, the Ligt or Casemiro should have been the captains ahead of Bruno. Simple. You know what I mean? Them two there are the captains. So I look at de Ligt and Casemiro, those two, first and foremost. And that's it. So if we're looking at mentality monsters or natural leaders, again, two's not enough, but the two are Casemiro and Matthias de Ligt. Them two should be the captains, not Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes ain't no mentality monster or a leader. He's not. Because as a leader, when things start to go wrong, you don't start throwing your hands up in the air and blaming others. You don't start doing that. And Bruno does this consistently. You know, as I mentioned yesterday, if he gives the ball away, it's someone else's fault. If he loses the ball, it's someone else's fault. If they don't play him the ball, it's someone else's fault. Like, I've never seen a player that arrogant and that condescending to his own teammates like Bruno Fernandes. You know, you would think that this guy's the best player in the world or the best player United have ever had. And the fact that he does that consistently, that's no leader. He's not, you know, regardless of what anyone says. Yeah, De Ligt should be the captain. 100% he should be. Guys, sorry, man. I just read something from Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. Now, he has to be joking. So, Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team thinks that Madueke and Kenan Yildiz in the future will be like Messi versus Ronaldo. Yeah, listen, man. Let's just skip past that, man. Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. I'm gonna put you on a timeout for that, man, next time, because that's probably some of the worst take I've ever seen. Madueke and Yildiz is the future Messi and Ronaldo. Chat, if you think that's true, man, you can join him on a timeout, because that is crazy. Gav, will Crystal Palace win the Conference League? I think under this manager, Oliver Glasner, why not? Why not? Yeah, I see no reason why not. He's a very good manager, Glasner. If they can keep all their players fit, relatively fit to the end of the season, why not? You know? So, nah, football died when Rodri won the Ballon d'Or. I disagree. Rodri's a top player. And you can see why Rodri won it, really. Because, again, Spain won the Euros. I think what did City do when he won it? I think City didn't win Champions League, did they, when he won it? Did City win Champions League when Rodri won it? I can't remember. But no, listen, I have no problem Rodri winning it. It's between Rodri and Vinicius Jr. I thought Vinicius Jr. was going to win it, but again, Rodri as a footballer, I rate him, so I haven't got a problem with that. But for me, when Scott McTominay's in the Ballon d'Or list, yeah, that's criminal. That is criminal. So when Arteta leaves Arsenal, would United take him? No way. We don't take losers, man. We want winners here. Which is why I'm confused that Amorim's still here. So Brother Boys says Chelsea win 2-0 tonight against Bayern Munich. Who's at home? I think Bayern Munich are at home. 2-0. I don't know. It'd be a tough game. I can see a draw. Maybe a 1-1 draw, 2-2 draw probably. I'm not sure if Chelsea beat Bayern. I think that'd be a tough game, you know. Yeah, big up to Mike, man. So, yeah, football is now based on GA instead of pure football ability. Yes, goals and assists count, but what about the actual football? I couldn't have said that perfectly myself, Mike. Big up, because this is why football's gone down. The very fact that GA is being used as a way of propping up players, it just shows you why football's done. Because Scott McTominay is probably the beneficiary of that right now. Because, as I said, I know Napoli won the Scudetto, the Serie A, but to think that his GA really has got him in the conversation rather than his actual ability just shows you where football's going or where football's gone. Because I'm from an era where GA didn't really matter. You know, if half of you guys knew how much average goals that the likes of Iniesta was getting, you guys would be shocked. Because Iniesta was averaging about 6 goals a season. But there's no one on here that would tell you that Iniesta wasn't a good player. Because just watching with your eyes, you would know what a top player he was. But the guy was averaging 6 goals a season. Because we didn't really care about numbers. Look at Zidane. You know, Zidane was probably the same. 6 or 8 goals a season. If that. But we didn't care about numbers. We just cared about the quality of the player. And this is where football's gone now, unfortunately. That we're having to look at players getting pushed because of GA, which is just crazy. Yeah, Mark, listen, man. I have no doubt that Ineos will pull the plug on Amorim. They will. I think the fact when you're hearing when you when you're hearing things like, they expect to be in the in touching distance of Champions League, you kind of know the writings on the wall for this manager, because they probably know deep down that's not going to happen. And again, look at United's next fixtures of Chelsea, Brentford, Sunderland, Liverpool, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham. Can you realistically see a win coming from any of them games comfortably? Because I can't. I can't see a comfortable win coming in any of them games. And I think Ineos probably know that. And I reckon they pull the plug before it even gets to the Liverpool game, in my opinion. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't beat Sunderland or Nottingham Forest, not Sunderland or Brentford, as I said earlier, if he's still here. I'll be very surprised. So these reports, Yamal was into a party lifestyle. Does this concern you, that he may not realise his full potential? I mean, to be fair, Lumi, yeah, I've not seen that myself. I've not heard any of Yamal's partying lifestyle has been an effect. I've not heard that. Again, big up to United fan 345. Big up, man. So yeah, I've not heard that myself. But listen, from what I've seen of Lamine Yamal, I've got no problems with Yamal. For me, he's gonna take this this next generation by storm, man. He's the lead guy for me. I've seen too much of Yamal to know that he's gonna be a top player. And again, if it is true about his partying lifestyle, I hope, and I do believe, that that does get under control. But again, I've not heard that. But for me, he's a top player, man, and yeah, he's a player that we should all be excited to watch in years to come, man, because what he's doing now at the age of 18 now is ridiculous, man. You shouldn't be that good at that age, really, and he was, as I said to you guys before, he was a key player for club and country at 16. That's unheard of. I've never heard of a player being the key player at 16 years of age for club and country. I've never heard it. If you guys know of one player that's been 16 and been a key player for club and country, please put that in the chat, because I've never heard it. The guy's still in school and he's a key player for club and country. And the thing is, it's not like he's playing for, lesser teams. He's playing for arguably the biggest club in world football, along with Real Madrid and Man United in Barcelona. And he's playing for one of the biggest nations in terms of football in the world, in Spain. So yeah, this is how good he is. So Ineos are terrible. Worst thing to happen to the club since the Glazers. I disagree with that. I mean, I know people are going to look at the sackings of the staff, etc. But what I will tell you is that if United were winning, no one really cares about that. Let's be honest, And Ineos, for me, from what I've seen so far, in terms of the training ground, the new stadium that's going to be built, the recruitment, the fact that they've got rid of players as well, even though it did take a long time, we can't just be all negative towards Ineos, in my opinion. The one blemish on their thing at the moment for me is the manager, and I'll stick by that. So in terms of what they've actually done, I haven't really got too much problem, and I do believe it's going to get better as well. I think they are putting things in place to get the club to be back on the up. It's going to take time. But in terms of them being the worst thing since the Glazers, I disagree with that. I disagree with that massively, because, as I said, from what I've just said, I think they are trying to get back on track, the club back on track. But until this manager's gone, I'm still going to be a bit skeptical. Definitely. Yeah, listen, Mike. Again, Bruno blaming Euro. This is what Bruno does. Like, Bruno's been doing this for time. Big up to Ennis there, man. Big up, bro, for coming on. This is what Bruno does. You know, he's someone that, you know, and again, as a leader, as a captain, you're meant to be leading by example, not throwing a youngster like Lenny Yoro under the bus. And this is what he does. He looks at everyone else but himself. And he's been doing this before, even before he had the captaincy. You could tell that Bruno had this in his game. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, do I blame Bruno massively? Not really. I blame the majority of the fan base, because the majority of the fan base has made Bruno feel invincible, which is why he's doing these things like blaming Lenny Yoro. You know, this is why he does this, because the fan base have made him feel like he can do whatever he wants. I've never seen a player so average in Bruno Fernandes, yeah, being given the freedom of Old Trafford to go and do what he wants. As I said before, guys, he's the captain. You know, a lot of fans think he's the best player at the club. Is there any surprise where the club's in the state it is if he's the best player that they think he is? You know, the fact that he's on every corner, free kick, penalty, he is the go-to guy that's been made by this club and by the majority of his fan base. So when he's coming out blaming Lenny Yoro, we shouldn't be surprised, because he's been given the reins to go and do that, unfortunately. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Big up to Lewis Jackson as well. Guys, come on, smash the like button and sub to the channel if you're new in here. Yeah, big up to Lumi. So it says, by the way, fair play to Gav, even when United were doing well, results-wise in pre-season. Gav still predicted a bad start in the Premier League and Amorim under pressure. Because, Lumi, that's because I've got two functioning eyes, and I don't just go with the majority. Like, I have my own opinion. And as I said, you know, from what I see of in pre-season, it was more the same shit, as I said. And the fact that United beat, who they beat? I think they beat Bournemouth. They beat West Ham. Yeah. But I saw concerning things there to know that, look, it's pre-season. A lot of these teams are trying to get back up to scratch. And not to mention, the three of the teams there, you know, these are three teams that you would have expected to see in the bottom half of the table. So the facts that sorry, I just see record revenue United, 666.5 million with a reduced net loss of 33 mil. That's decent. That's actually decent. So yeah, the fact that I see them in pre-season, you know, I wasn't getting carried away. Yeah, they won the summer series, but I wasn't impressed, not one bit. The Arsenal game, you know, the majority of people thought Arsenal, that they played well against Arsenal. I didn't. I wasn't with the notion that they played well against Arsenal. I thought Arsenal were poor, but ultimately United got beat. And then you move on to the Fulham game, the Burnley game, the City game, and you actually see where United really are. So there's no surprise there, really. Big up to Chris and Mark as well. Yeah, big up, man. Big up for coming on. I'm all good. So Scott says, how is it a lie? Look at the past 5 managers. The players always sack the managers. Again, that's a complete lie. And I know you're getting that from elsewhere, because let's look at Eric Ten Hag, yeah? Ten Hag had who was brought in under Ten Hag? It was Lenny Yoro, Matthias de Ligt, Andre Onana, who else was brought in? Joshua Zirkzee, Manuel Ugarte. I think that's 5 players. Mason Mount, 6 players. So Ten Hag had 6 new players. Six new players that was brought in. Oh, Rasmus Højlund as well. So 7 new players that was brought in. Yeah. Those 7 players didn't get Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the sack. Yeah. So this whole notion about these players always get the manager the sack, that's a complete lie. Because the 7 players that I've mentioned, they were all brought in under Eric Ten Hag. So they didn't get Ole the sack. So that's a lie. Yeah. The players that were there under Ollie were Dallo, Bruno, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire. Casemiro was brought under Ten Hag as well. So that's 8 players, yeah? So Bruno, Dallo, Shaw, Maguire. Who else was there? That's it. That's it. So those 4 players were only there when, I believe, Solskjaer got sacked, I believe. So, again, 8 players that were brought in under Ten Hag, they weren't there under Solskjaer. So how are they getting every manager sacked? Again, that's just a complete lie. And you're getting that from other channels, I can tell. So, yes, don't believe the nonsense. So, like, all these players are not getting the same manager sacked. Let's focus on right now. The 8 players that I just mentioned that were brought in under Ten Hag, they were only there for when Ten Hag got sacked. They're still here. Well, Højlund's not here, no more. Andre Onana's not here no more. So we're down to 6 players that were there, that were brought in when Ten Hag was manager, that didn't get Solskjaer the sack. So let's stop lying. That's a complete lie. You know, that's just trying to make excuses for the manager. The facts are, Ineos, I believe, have brought in about 10 players, 10 new players that weren't there under Solskjaer. Some of them were here under Ten Hag and under Amorim. So then they're not getting all these managers sacked. It's a complete lie. So Ennis there says, do you still think Baleba is still worth 100 million euros? And how much do you think he's actually worth? Yeah, I still think he's worth that for me. I mean, I know people are going to be looking at the fact that he hasn't been great since he didn't get his move. But if I'm looking at his age, what he's going to be worth in the future, 100 million for me is a steal. So, again, by all accounts, he wanted to come to United as well. So, I'm just hoping that January, something's on the cards. Whether United can do a deal, which means they get him for less money, I don't know. But yeah, for me, I definitely still want Baleba. But I've been shouting about Baleba since last season. You know, the summer, I was saying before Baleba was being spoken about, and again, some of you that have been in my chat for a little while will know this. I spoke about Baleba before he even got linked to United. I said Baleba's the one midfielder that United need to go for. And then when United actually went for him, I was actually surprised because I didn't see it happening. So I'm not going to change course, you know. Me, I want Camavinga, but that's not going to happen, I don't think. But Baleba's the one for me that United need to go and get. So Ennis there says, it's interesting that the youth team still play 4-3-3 compared to the first team. And you know why that's good, Ennis there? Because it shows you that that Ineos as a whole don't believe in its manager. Because look at when Louis van Gaal was manager, yeah? Louis van Gaal had the youth team playing the same way as the first team. The fact that the youth team are not playing the same way as the first team, it tells you that this manager was brought in not with the philosophy of playing the 3-4-2-1. So it's only him that's playing that. So when he goes, the whole thing's going to change back to a 4. So that's music to my ears that the youth team are not playing the 3-4-2-1. So they can't get polluted with this nonsense formation. So, yeah, listen. Big up to Charles Malema. Says, hey, remember Fulham Couch saying he started by studying our system, and he said he knew Man U was beatable. I mean, with that system. Yeah, listen. Marco Silva, even Alex Iwobi come out and said that they knew what United were going to do. Yeah, listen, man, it's not hard. It's not hard, you know. But again, we've spoken so much about this formation, this whole system. You know, it's killing so many players, man. So again, let's just hope that the plug's pulled very, very soon. Right, guys, I'm going to go through a few more of your questions. If I don't go through everyone's questions, you know, big up yourself each and every time. Smash that like, sub to the channel before we wrap up. Just going to go through a few more of the questions. Gav, would you take Emery? I would. I like Unai Emery. I think Emery's a very good manager. I would take him. He's another one. But I don't think he's going to leave Aston Villa personally. But he's a very good manager for me. You know, again, I know Villa are not doing too well at the moment, but I think he'll get it right sooner than later. But yeah, he's definitely someone that I'll definitely be looking at as a manager. Gav, Lamine, for example, isn't a prolific goal scorer, but I can tell you he's probably the best footballer in the world right now on pure ability. I'm not even a Barca fan. 100%. And again, the fact that Lamine Yamal isn't getting crazy numbers, yeah, is music to my ears, because it just shows you that you don't have to get crazy numbers to be looked at as the best player. We look at Lamine Yamal because of his age and just the pure quality that he has. The thing with Lamine Yamal, he's a creator first. That's what I like. He's a creator first, and he will get numbers as he gets more experience in the game. I think the thing with Yamal, which I think might happen, as he gets more experience and and the team becomes his own, it's gonna be one of them things. Does he have a similar path to Messi in the sense of, does he play more central to get numbers, or is he just gonna become someone that's just gonna, you know, just be a pure creator in that sense, you know? Because I think he can get more numbers, but the reason why a lot of fans love Yamal is because whenever Yamal gets the ball, you know something's going to happen, and it's of high quality. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I believe. That's what I believe his pathway should be. You know, someone that's not too interested in getting numbers. I mean, his GA this season just gone. I think he got about 30 GA, I believe. You know, Rafinha got mad numbers in the 50s. But for me, pure footballing ability as a pure player, like Lamine Yamal's got it all for me, you know. And as I said, I think as he gets more experience, it depends how his pathway is going to go in terms of, does he play more centrally? You know, does he start becoming more selfish in terms of getting numbers? Who knows? I believe he still does the same thing as what he's doing now, just with more experience, you know, and hopefully he does that. Yeah, big up Chris and Mark, man. Big up. Yeah, listen, again, Mike, the fact that Ahmad is playing wing back, you know, that should just tell everyone that this system has to go, because Ahmad is is United's most talented player. I look at Ahmad, I look at Xerxes, you know, even Cunha. Those three there, put Kobe Manu in there as well. Those are those are the majority of our best players in terms of technical, yeah. And the fact that we have to see Ahmad, and guys, if anyone's played football to any level, yeah, that has played wing back before, yeah, or hasn't played wing back, I don't think you guys understand what a demanding position wing back is. Wing back's not a position that you just step onto the pitch and play, yeah. You have to be willing to play that position, you know, which is why you get a lot of athletes play that position, because it's very selfless. You know, you have to be someone that wants to do the selfless running. And again, if you haven't played that position, yeah, you won't understand how difficult it is to play that position, because the majority of your work is done going the wrong way. You know, it's up and down, it's hard work, you know. And someone like Ahmad, who's a pure footballer, he needs to be on the ball at all times. But when Ahmad gets the ball, you can tell he's tired, because he's running up and down that pitch, supporting the attack and defending. So again, if you haven't played football to any level, you won't realize how difficult it is playing as a wing back. And the fact that we have to watch Amad Diallo, who's probably our best player in terms of technical, playing as a wing back, just shows you that this manager has to go because of that. You know, it's crazy. And I've been saying this for time anyway. So I think the problem is this fan base has been influenced by these big United channels that keep pushing the stats, say we are better narrative, and that's the player's fault, which is pathetic. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think what the problem is, there's not too many people that have their own opinion. That's what I see. You know, a lot of fans follow bigger channels and just run with that narrative that these players have got previous managers sacked, which is a complete lie. It's a complete lie. Because I just showed you that there's 8 players that have been signed that wasn't there under Solskjaer, wasn't there under Mourinho. So again, Luke Shaw, and what makes me laugh as well, yeah, is that if you're mentioning Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, etc., a lot of these fans will tell you that these were 3 of our best players. But all of a sudden now, these are the players that got managers sacked. I've never rated all 3 of them in the first place. So I've been consistent. But a lot of fans now are saying these players have got other managers sacked, but they're mentioning those 3 players. But those 3 players have been held up in high regard by a lot of these fans. The whole thing's just a lie, man. It's just very contradictory. You know, I've never been a fan of Bruno. You know, when Luke Shaw first came in, he looked promising. But when he started getting the injuries and his lack of professionalism as well, which is why I said, you know, this player can't last. Harry Maguire should never have been brought in the first place, you know. So, yeah, it's just funny for me, you know. But yeah, a lot of the bigger channels are influencing a lot of people's decisions to come out with this nonsense to say that the manager has to stay because these players ain't good enough. Again, the players are not great, you know, collectively, but they are better than what's been that's what's been shown. And I can guarantee this for free. If you put a better manager in place, you'll get better performances. That's a fact. Ruben Amorim's failing. That's as simple as that. So Ennis there says, I think once the midfield is all right, his 3-4-3 system will work. Big up to Ennis there. But guys, what people need to realize as well, yeah, and again, this is quite concerning, yeah. Manchester United are not playing a 3-4-3. I don't know where this 3-4-3 is coming from, but they are not playing a 3-4-3. They are playing a 3-4-2-1. When you're playing with a right 10 and a left 10, and you've got the wing backs going on, you're not playing a 3-4-3 because the 3-4-3 system means, big up Mark, man, big up. The 3-4-3 system means you're either playing with the wide players as inside forwards or wingers. Brian Mbeumo is not playing as an inside forward. He's playing as a 10, which is why this system is flawed in the first place. Because Brian Mbeumo is not a 10. He's a winger being asked to play as a right 10. That's the problem. So the fact that people actually think United are playing a 3-4-3, they're not playing a 3-4-3. They're playing a 3-4-2-1 because you're playing with 10s. Because, as I said, you can't play a 3-4-3 if you're playing with wing-backs, really. You can't. Because you have to be, if you're playing a 4-3-3, yeah, you're playing inside forwards or wingers. But when you're playing with a 3 and you play with the wing-backs, you're playing with 2 number 10s because the width comes from the wing-backs, which means that you're going to be inverted. So you're playing, and so again, if you're playing more as an inside forward, yeah, you're more or less a number 10 in a sense, you know. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. United are playing the 3-4-2-1 because, as we all know, they're playing left 10 and right 10. Because if they were playing with wingers, you know, then you wouldn't really need to be playing with wing-backs because the width would come from the wingers. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. Like, United are not playing the 3-4-3. They're playing a 3-4-2-1. And again, this is what I'm trying to say to you. Brian Mbeumo is a winger, and the closest position to a winger in this system is the wing-back. Amad Diallo is a 10, and he's playing as a wing-back. So I keep saying to you guys, Amad Diallo and Brian Mbeumo are playing in the opposite positions. You know? Madness. Absolute madness. But again, the midfield for me, if you just change the 4 to a 4 at the back and go 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, I think you'll suddenly find the midfield isn't as bad as what it's been made out to be. Don't get me wrong, United definitely need reinforcements in there. But the midfield isn't as bad as what people are making it out to be. The midfield is this bad because of the system, the formation. That's the problem. Because this system makes the midfield get exposed. And he shoehorns Bruno Fernandes in there as well. So that's the issue, guys. Mike, listen. Do I think United can get into Europe with this team, this squad? I do. I do believe that. Not in this system. That's why I keep saying it. Not in this system. But they have the capabilities, 1 game a week, to get into Europe. Not in this system, not under this manager. So the answer is, get rid of the manager for me. But guys, listen up. Obviously, you've been going for about an hour and a half now. Listen, big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. Make sure, guys, you smash that like button if you haven't done so already. And again, make sure you sub to the channel as well. I think we've just gone past 1.6k. So yeah, big up yourselves for subbing. Big up yourselves for contributing to the channel as well and giving us your comments and your questions. Again, we're not here to agree on every point. It's about dialogue, which is what I love. So again, everyone's free to have their own opinions as long as it's respectful. But for myself, yeah, I just don't understand fans that are saying, give this manager time. It's the players, etc. Ultimately, the buck stops with the manager. He decides to put these players onto the pitch. He decides to play this system. He decides to make ridiculous subs. I mean, the Harry Maguire sub for Lenny Yoro was laughable. The fact that you put Harry Maguire on, self-sabotage, I would say. Because what he's probably thinking is, if United get a corner, Harry Maguire's an aerial threat. But again, they actually worked against United. Because when you're putting Harry Maguire on as a central defender to deal with Erling Haaland, and Erling Haaland is a lot quicker than Harry Maguire, you're setting yourself for failure, Amorim. Because I can guarantee you this now, if that was Lenny Yoro that was chasing down Haaland, he probably gets there. Or at least makes an attempt to make it uncomfortable for Erling Haaland. But the fact that he put Maguire on and took out Lenny Yoro, like, this manager's just taking the piss now. Literally taking the piss. So, as I said, man, it's laughable what this manager's doing. But listen, we got Chelsea on the weekend on Saturday. I think 5 p.m, 5:30 kickoff, I think it is. So yeah, listen, we're gonna see what goes on here, man. But as I said, man, there is tougher times ahead for this manager if he stays here. And as I said, I'm giving him till the Chelsea game. I don't think they sack him. But I think Sunderland or Brentford, if there's not a win in either game, I believe that's when they act and pull the plug. So we'll see what happens. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Smash the like button, sub to the channel. I'm probably going to be back, guys, possibly tomorrow. I don't think I'll be back tonight. Possibly tomorrow at 11:30. Again, if I'm not back at 11:30, I'll try to be back in the evening. Try and give you guys a stream. But at the moment, work's a bit up and down. So yeah, obviously, as you guys know, I'll be on when I can. So yeah, I'll possibly be back on either, I doubt tonight, but possibly tomorrow morning or either in the evening. But yeah, just keep an eye on my schedule. Make sure your notifications are on to see when I'm going live. And as always, make sure you guys contribute to the channel and make sure you guys are always interacting. Big up to all the newcomers as well. Big up to all the mods each and every time. And yeah, guys, we'll have to wait and to see what happens in this Chelsea game. So I will be doing a match preview to the Chelsea game, possibly on Friday. I'll do that on Friday. So the predicted teams for both. And as I said, man, I don't expect United to win the game. So I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea. And it's going to be more misery for me, for United, in my opinion. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But as I said, guys, big up yourselves. And if you guys get a chance, check out Flawless at Sarcasm City TV. Check out the stream from yesterday with myself on there. And I think there was a few other guys. Well, there was a few other guys, Kaneki and Danny on there as well. So if you guys get a chance, check that out. Some good discussions there, you know. And as I said, guys, much appreciate you guys contributing to the channel. As I said, yeah, I should be back tomorrow, guys. But big up yourselves each and every time. I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.